Hi fiends, thanks for joining me on DonnaJean's Coffee House of Horror. It's been a little bit, I've missed you. And I'm here today with somebody I'm so delighted to be talking to. I'm going to love you to meet him. His name is William Perry, or we'll call him Bill. And once you know what he has been in, you're going to know that you've seen him. You're going to know that you know him. He is a stuntman, he's an actor, he's done voice work, and recently he's become a writer. Let's talk to him.
To whoever finds this, please give it to the police, or newspapers, or whoever you think will read it. Please, don't send it to one of the fucking tabloids. It's the last thing I want. I'm writing this to clear my name, or at least to explain. I'm fully aware of how much this sounds like bullshit. I questioned everything that happened, the same as you will. I'm not making excuses. I just ask you to look back at the man you knew before this all started. Is any of this consistent with that version of me? Ask anyone who knows me. I was a good guy. I was a good dad. A good husband. Not perfect by any means, but not the monster that you now know. I'm not saying I didn't do any of it. Obviously, there's a mountain of evidence and, of course, the photos and the video and all that.
Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Your book in By His Hand, and I told you that you sent me a copy of it, and it reminded me of The Twilight Zone, which I can't give any more of a greater compliment than that, being a fan of The Twilight Zone. And the one thing that really kind of boggles my mind, between being acting and being physical and being into all of the things with the films, is it much more difficult to be able to put things into writing because you're setting the tone of the characters, of the background? So really, did that come natural for you, or did you have to push yourself and work on it? How did that come about?
It's funny. I've never thought of myself as a writer. I did some writing for Wes, doing a website, but it was more about sort of reiterating and cleaning up what somebody had said. When it came to this book, I had a nightmare. Since you've read it, you'll know exactly what the nightmare was, and it played out just like you read it, beginning to end. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I reached out to the publisher that I do these audiobooks for, and I gave him just the real gist of the story in about 2 paragraphs. And he wrote back to me and said, "That's one of the scariest things I've ever read." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "I read a lot of scary stuff, Bill." I said, "Yeah, I know. I've read what you've read." And he said, "You should write it." And I said, "I'm no writer." And he said, "Well, let me take a swing at it." So I gave him a month. And he didn't come back with anything. He said, "I've just been too busy." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to take a swing at this." And so I started writing it. And if you know the story, it's very emotional. It's very personal to me personally. I mean, the story is of me in this horrible, horrible situation. And there was a few days where I just couldn't do it. You'll know which scene I'm probably talking about. It's the death of somebody very close to me. And I remember just saying, I can't do this right now. And somebody asked me, why is the book, the book's not that long, it's only about 60 pages. And they said, why is it so short? And I said, because I just couldn't do it. It was too sad, just really, really wrenching. And I sent it back to the publisher, and I sent it to a friend of mine that is a writing instructor at Santa Monica College. And he wrote to me from a plane. He said, "I have Wi-Fi. I just read your book." And Jesus, man, it scared the crap out of me. And I said, "Did you like it?" He goes, "Well, if you can like these horrible things that happened." I said, "Yeah." He said, "What draft is this?" I said, "Was I supposed to do multiple drafts?" He said, "This is the first thing you've ever written, and this is your first draft?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Wow, you really have a flair for making things taste and feel, the way you describe cold, or these sorts of things. It's very, very very visual, and yet you can sort of feel it. And I said, that's good, right? He's like, yeah. And I said, okay. And then the publisher called me back and said, well, it's ready to go. Let's publish. And I really just thought I was going to get pages and pages and notes. And so I was very, very excited when he said that he was going to publish it just the way it was. I think from the time I had the dream to the day it went live was only 4 months. And somebody had said to me, so you're a writer now? And I said, I guess, yeah. if I'm published, I guess I'm a writer. And then his next question was, well, is there a part 2? I thought, oh God, do I really want to write a part 2 to that? And I was talking with a friend about the story, and he said, have you thought about having the story continue this way? Damn it, that's a good idea. Crap. So now there is a part 2. And I think it's as good. I certainly hope it is. And it's very, very twisted, very sad. I think that's kind of the part of the, I hope that when I write, people care about the characters the way I care about the characters. Mm-hmm. And I hope that they don't want those people to suffer. Even the protagonist is somebody I hope you don't want to see suffer, but he's gonna suffer really badly.
Well, there's a powerlessness about the situation that you really come across, that he's experiencing that when everything's happening. And that's a very intense thing to be reading and experiencing.
And the second half, somebody had said to me, well, in the end, and I won't give away the ending, but he said, is he just crazy? Is he demonically possessed? What is it? And I said, well, what do you think? He's like, I know what I think. I want to know what it is. And I said, I'm not going to tell you that. He said, why? Do you not know? I said, no, I mean, I know, but I don't want to ruin it for you. He's like, well, I've already read it. I just want to know. I said, does it really make you that uncomfortable? He said, yes. Well, welcome to horror. I want you to be uncomfortable. And he says, well, is there a part 2 where you explain? And I said, there is a part 2, but it's not going to help you any. It's like, damn it, man. Tell me. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to ruin it for you. There was one of my favorite musicians is Elvis Costello, and somebody asked him about the lyrics. What do they mean? And he said, if I told you that, I could ruin everything. If I told you that Allison was about my cat, you go, oh, I thought Allison was like your first love. It's like, well, now I just ruined it for you. And I kind of feel the same way. It's like, if I told you and then you were like, oh, I kind of thought it was the other thing, or I thought it was this, or I thought it was that, then maybe I just kind of took something away, and maybe a little bit of the enjoyment is ruined. I kind of like to think that it leaves you guessing. And he said, well, in the second one, what supports it being this versus that? And I told him, he's like, damn it, that doesn't help me. And I said, I'm not trying to help you. I'm trying to entertain you. I'm trying to spook you. I'm trying to scare you. I'm trying to, shock you. I'm trying to make you sad. I'm trying to, give you an experience, through that. And if I make it, there's something I really hate, which I call a Scooby-Doo ending. No offense, Matt Lillard. A Scooby-Doo ending is, oh, and if it wasn't for those meddling kids, I'd have gotten away with it too. Every Scooby-Doo episode ends the same way. Like, of course it was on Mr. McGregor. He was the one, he needed to save his farm, and so he did this. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be something where at the end, you're kind of left with, well, that's just, I don't know how to feel about that. It's like, good.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre ending with her in the back of the truck screaming. And
does the bad guy get away? I don't know. What do you think? And it's not just about leaving room for a sequel. I've had the good or bad fortune of being in a lot of sequels. Home Alone 2, Nightmare 3, Nightmare 4, Nightmare 6, Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Everything's a sequel. And there's a side of that it's kind of like, sometimes they're just making money. They've built an audience, they're going to make a franchise out of it. Wes had told me that they would never make more than Nightmare 3. That was it. Trilogy. He said, mark my words, God is my witness. 3 and we're done. And then he made 4. So to me, I only want to see part 2 if part 1 was great and part 2 is going to be better. Aliens. I love the movie Aliens. It's everything that
Right,
Alien
right.
was, except holy crap, there's a million of them damn things now. And Sigourney Weaver's performance was just excellent, and Bill Paxton and Lance Hendrickson, everything about it is good. And so that's the kind of thing. So with the second book, I wasn't going to write it unless I felt like, can I do this justice? Can I do that? Because I think the story's good. Can I do something in the second one that goes, oh, yikes, this is much, much worse. This is much scarier. The stakes are higher. The emotional, journey that this the protagonist is on was bad before. It's worse now. That's the only reason I want to do it, because otherwise it's just, all right, I'll throw out it. I love Stephen King, but every now and then Stephen King just lays a turd. And I think, dude, come on, man. You have a boat payment to do this month? I only do it if it's really got a good ending, Stephen. Sorry, man. I love The Stand. Needful Things, you ran out of steam. So yeah, I think it's really important that there be a reason to do it beyond just you've built an audience and you need the money. Yeah, must not.
Now, you said you did have the second one written?
I'm in the
or
middle
you're
of it
working
now.
on it?
Yeah, just trying to find the
Okay.
time. It's another one of those things where it's again very, very sad. You're really rooting for this poor character, and as I write it, there are times where I just get to a point where it's like, I just can't do this right now. I just don't want to go to this place that I have to go to. When I wrote the first book, I changed all the names at the end because when I had to think about some of these people suffering, I needed to think of them as those real people, because it made it much more affecting to me. But I hate to be such a softie, but I'm just crying through a particular scene, and when I stop, I'm like, okay, I got to go walk away. I got to go do something else for a while, because this is really a hard place to be. It's kind of like method acting in its way. And I was so glad to be able to do a search and replace and change all these people's names out, so that the next time I read it, or when I read it for the audiobook, I didn't have to think about that being my friends or my family. So much, much easier when the names were changed. And by the I was going to say too, and if you do actually, I'm just going to throw in a quick plug here, if I may. There's the app Chilling, and if you don't know what Chilling is, and you should, it's like Spotify for scary stories, and the book is on there for free. So if you're out there listening and you think, I think that book might be worth listening to, I think it is, and you can listen to it for free on Chilling. And if you don't like it, hey, well, it didn't cost you a thing. You didn't pay for it. Give me a break. And there's a lot of great content on there. And it used to be a subscription model, but now I believe they've got advertisers through Netflix and Amazon and things. So you can just go on there and listen to your heart's content. If you like scary stories, there's great stuff on there. And my book's on there.
How could somebody get a hard copy if they want to?
You can hardly not get it. If you just if you go to Amazon, they've got it on Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble and lots of other places. Yeah, and it's there as an audiobook as well on Audible and Spotify, and it's really just about everywhere. I didn't want to self-publish because that just kind of seemed kind of jerkwater. Sorry, self-publishers out there. It just didn't seem like that's not what I wanted. If I wanted to do it, I wanted to feel like it was good enough, and somebody out there thought, I'll invest my time and energy to try to sell your book. So my publisher is a place called Red Cape Publishing in the UK, and so he put it everywhere. Any place where you can get a podcast, you can get the book, and I think it's $1. So not in it for the money, because if it is, I'm really bad at this. But even on Chilling, it's free. Chilling's got an interesting model that if your story gets read, you get a piece of the proceeds that the company makes for every minute that somebody listens. So if you go there, it's free to you, but I might get a couple of cents here and there. But as much as anything, I just want people to listen to it. I want them to I want it to affect them. And I hope that people will rate it. Somebody said to me, what if I don't like it? I'm like, well, I want to know that too. You know, it will crush me, but I still want to know. I want to know that you enjoyed it, or if it scared you, or when you say that it was like the Twilight Zone, you know, that's one of my faves, you know, old school and the later version. I didn't see it that way. I kind of thought of it in a much more cinematic, big film kind of way. But the fact that, you know, how much better can you be than Rod Serling? I mean, really, that's I'm crazy.
I was almost envisioning it like it was a very intimate, and I was almost picturing it. I wasn't picturing it in black and white, but it's the best way I can describe it. The emotion that I was reading it in that way, because it was very personal, the way that it was written. So that's kind of really the best way I can describe that.
Visually, for me, I almost saw it almost like a first person shooter sort of game, you know, like Doom or one of those kinds of things where I see everything from my perspective. And I hope that the viewer has that sense of it too, that you're seeing it through the eyes of the protagonist through the whole film, through the whole book, or even as you're listening to it, you're only hearing one person's voice, so it's, you know, it's coming from inside. Right. And so somebody had said to me, would you make a screenplay of it? And I started writing it as a screenplay, actually almost for the exercise of it. It's a very different thing to write a screenplay than it is to write a book, because in a book you can say, well, he thought to himself. Well, can't do that in a screenplay. He's got to say it. Somebody's got to say it, or somebody's got to show it, or you have to hear it, or it didn't happen. Unless it's in the Twilight Zone. Yeah. Kind of... But it's a very different way of writing. But I thought, and I met a gentleman last night who's a screenwriter, and he said, what makes you think you can write a screenplay? And I said, I don't know. What made me think I could write a book? And he said, it's hacks like you that piss off real writers. Sorry, man. You know, but everybody has to write.
Is that when you reached into your briefcase and
pretty much, actually. But it's one of those things where I think I don't think there's any magic to it. I don't imagine my first work will be my best work, but you got to start somewhere. You got to write. You know, a writer's got to write, an actor's got to act. So I thought, you know, maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. I really don't. It's not my job to determine whether it's good. It's just my job to do my best with it. And I hope, I've had somebody say, you know, if you could put the part 2 to this would make a nice low budget slasher. And I don't think of it as a low budget slasher, but I could do it for a low budget, as long as it's not too low. But I would love to see it visually out there. I don't know how you'd shoot it though, so I have absolutely no. Again, I'm not a director. I'm not a cinematographer. I'm not any of those guys. I just.
I know a lot of indie filmmakers out there who might be watching this. Who knows?
Call me. We'll talk. So. Have your girl call my girl. We'll talk.
Now, if anybody does want to get this and get it autographed or talk to you about it, or about anything else, you're going to be venturing into the fine world, and which is one of the worlds I belong and live in, of conventions. You're going to be in October at the Atomic Monster Weekend in Arizona.
Loving the thought of this. It's funny, my wife is very much an introvert, and I'm very clearly an extrovert. She said meeting 100 people a day, that's just hell. It's like, not to me. That I come out of doing these convention things, and I'm just wired for sound. Meeting new people and having, you know, talking movies and talking stories and talking horror, it just charges my batteries and overcharges them. And I'm a storyteller, as you probably have gotten from talking to me for this length of time. And so when somebody asks me about something like a film thing, and I can tell them a little story about the making of that, and they're like, oh my God, when I watch the movie again, I gotta tell my friends. I thought, that's the best. Because, you know, that means they're going to watch this film again with a new level of enjoyment, and they get to tell their friends a little fun detail from the movie that they didn't know before, and they're so looking forward to watching that movie again to tell them about some funny thing that we did on the film or some scary thing that happened on the film. And that's why the conventions are such a blast, because I'm a fan of these films too. you know. So
Yeah.
when people talk to me about it, it's almost like I'm talking about it as if it happened to somebody else, because it's like, wouldn't it be cool? Oh, it was cool. Yeah, that was me. But it's you get to share that with them, you know. And the farther you get away from Hollywood, I still live in Los Angeles area, the farther you get away, the less people know about the ins and outs of filmmaking, and the more excited they are to talk to you about doing it. And that's fun. That's just really fun. I have such a great time. I've done a couple of private signings, and I did a kind of a pop-up event here in Los Angeles, and that was just so much fun. And you know, when somebody has a piece of art and they've made that piece of art, and it's, you know, maybe it's a Freddy Krueger or it's a Predator or it's one of these things, and I'm like, oh, but this is so pretty. I don't want to ruin it. And they're like, ruin it? You'd be the one finishing it. It's like, no way. Seriously? They're like, oh yeah, it would really be cool. I'm gonna get signatures from the whole cast. It's like, oh, well, okay. Awesome. I mean, it's an honor. It really is. Somebody 30 years ago, you know, I mean, somebody looks at something I did 30 years ago and then wants a little piece of me, you know, to be included in their artwork or their poster or their Freddy glove or whatever it is. Gosh, that doesn't make you feel good. I don't know what else would, you know. It's just, you know, I say it's in my past, and I look back on that time very, very fondly. I'm blessed beyond anybody's estimate of blessing, but it just keeps coming back. You know, when I get to do shows like this, I just get to meet people who are unabashedly flying that freak flag. You know what? They come dressed in full Freddy outfits or whatever, and yeah, they're just having fun. They're not self-conscious about that kind of stuff. They just come out to the shows and they're having a great time, and it's just hanging out with a bunch of people that share the same passion for the things that I do. It's just, what a great weekend. I mean, even if you just wandered from booth to booth, you just hang out with fun people. It's, you know, it's just hanging with your homes and having the best time ever, and not having to feel funny about it. You know, I was at an event last night at a horror art museum, and a couple of people came through dressed, you know, really bizarrely, and there was nobody was staring at them and, you know, giving them weird looks. It was cool, you know. Nobody gave them any grief about it, and that's nice. The world's very divided sometimes, and it's nice to see people just accept each other for having fun, doing the thing that makes them happy. You know, nothing better.
One of the things that does not happen at horror conventions that happens in most places of the world is you don't have people that are dressed in a cosplay as Michael Myers telling them they're cooler than the Freddys.
Yeah.
You know, they hang out
Yeah.
together. They respect the differences in that and how fun that
Yeah,
is,
there's a
you
guy
know?
here in LA,
So,
calls himself Fred Pool, and he has a cosplay mashup of Freddy Krueger and Deadpool. And
I
yeah,
it's similar
very,
stuff to
very
that.
funny.
It's
And
crazy.
you know, and he takes the best parts of both. You know, Deadpool's very funny, and well, and Freddy's funny too in his way. And so
In his
yeah,
own
and
twisted,
well,
funny
you know, all
way.
the great you know, taglines to any of, you know, welcome
Yeah.
to prime time, bitch, and all those sorts of things. He always has a great tagline, and this guy plays with that. And I've seen I have a shirt that somebody gave me that says the Fredditor, and it's part Freddy, part Predator. And I thought, oh, that's the movie that should not be made. By the way, if you're a filmmaker out there, don't make Predator. It just wouldn't be good. But you know, there's people that really are. They're so creative, and the costume making and the time and effort put into doing these things, just beautiful work. The makeups that I've seen, I'm a huge fan of practical special effects makeup, and that's one of the great things about the cons too. This one in Arizona in October is being sponsored by Stan Winston. And so the person who wins this makeup contest is going to get to go to school there. I'm like, how cool is that,
Oh,
right?
nice.
It's like,
That's
you know,
really good.
it takes something that you already have a passion for and allows you to take it to that next level. So that kind of stuff is just great. And again, the people so creative. I used to love watching Face Off. you know, and that's kind of what this is. They give you a day and you do your makeup, and whoever wins gets to win this contest. So and it's not so much a competition. I mean, there is a competition, but they've got first, second, and third, so everybody's going to get something. And you just let these people, you know, get as creative as they can be and do their best work, and it's for fun. But somebody gets to, again, take it to the next level by doing that. Love that kind of stuff.
Right.
Love it.
So anybody who can get out there.
The venue is actually with the first venue they picked was too small. They got so much. You know, these cons are everywhere. These conventions are every week in some place, and I love that. And this one, he said they got so many vendors so quickly that they had to get a bigger space, and they got bigger and better sponsors. And so there's going to be a car show, and there's going to be a kiddie convention area where the stuff's not quite so gory and freaky that you couldn't bring a little one to it. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen that before. What a great idea. And he's got this he also has these haunted tiki parties, so it's kind of surf music and gore at the same time. It's like, I love this, the creativity and the idea that let's just have fun. It's just, you know, nothing about this has to be negative or anything. We're just going to have a great time. And so that's, you know, and the fact that I get to go there and meet new people, it just doesn't get better. I mean, it's as fun as it's going to be. I can't wait. I hope they're all like that.
You know, honestly, I work at all of the Monster Manias, and I've worked the last couple of years at the Living Dead weekends, and at a couple of other of the smaller shows that are. I just see all of the happiness at all of them. You know, the sense of family and togetherness, and a lot of us refer to the other regular con goers as the con family. You know, is that?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things that I started doing with these is I connect with some of the local vendors, and I'm a promotion kind of guy. So I'll do a video with them and promote their products, and then I'll promote the con. And like, well, why do you feel the need to do that? I'm like, I want there to be a room full of people. You know, the more people that know about it, the more fun it is for the vendors and more lucrative it is for the vendors. So they'll do one again. And the artists that are there, that are doing all this great work, if I can help sell more of their artwork, great. And the promoters are, of course, like, well, awesome of you to help me, but you don't have to do that. It's like, I want to. I want a room full of people. I want to see this place buzzing. You know, if it fits 10,000, let's get 11,000. Let's make this place fun, because the more people that are there, the more fun it is for everyone. I would imagine the most depressing thing is a poorly attended convention. It's like, you know, that would be kind of sad. So yeah, I really want everybody to have a good time, and that's the convention goers as well as the vendors as well as the promoter himself. This is the first time they're doing this Atomic Monster Weekend, and he and I have been talking about what we're going to do next time. We're already talking about number 2, because he said we're just getting so much, so much enthusiasm for all the things that we're doing. I already want to start working on number 2, and we haven't even finished number 1 yet. I said, that's great that you get that kind of energy, you know, and that the local community is, like you said, a family. People are in on this, and everybody wants everybody to do well. It's not a competition. It's fun, you know. And and I've seen so many vendors at this thing I went to last night. I happened to see there's a gentleman, he does artwork called Adam's Art Box, and he had some beautiful pieces at this art show. And then there's a guy, Killer Art, a guy named Robbie Bettenhouse, who did some beautiful, he does chainsaws, and he paints the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on them, and he's got Buck 120 knives that he paints for Scream, and he's got all this different artwork, and I've seen all of these people before, and I know I'll see them again, because they all kind of do the same circuit, and they love coming out with a new piece of artwork that nobody's seen before, you know. And as new movies come out, they come out with new artwork. It's just a great way that everybody's sort of expressing themselves in new and different ways, and that there's a joy to that is just, you know, you just can't help but feel it, When I was talking to Wes about horror one time, I had said, aren't you afraid of the creepy people? And he said, I really haven't come in contact with anyone. He said, when people are into horror, it's not that they're necessarily into watching somebody get their head sawed off. It's they're there to watch the survivor, the final girl, if you will. And he said, not everybody's life is fun. And when you are a person that deals with a lot of, difficulty in your life, watching someone else survive helps you to recognize that you're going to make it too. You're following Jamie Lee, you're following Nev, you're following whoever, because in the end, they're going to make it. Unless it's what's her name now? Drew Barrymore. Sorry, Drew. But for the most part, the girl that you think is going to make it is going to make it, or the characters are going to get through this. And there's very cathartic sort of things to see somebody survive a lot of difficulty, and just by pluck and determination and smarts and just sheer will, they're going to survive, just like you. And that's a very eloquent way of making that clear. And I love that. I wish I probably butchered that from the way that Wes said it, but it was, it really connected me with who the people are that really are so dedicated to this genre, because you don't see that. I mean, I love Star Trek, and I did some Star Trek, and I look forward to doing some Star Trek conventions out there, but the horror audience is devoted in a way that I've never seen. They'll go to every pop-up, every weekend, twice a weekend.
So I'm going to ask you, in closing, do you have any suggestions for someone looking to get into the entertainment business, whether it's acting or stunts? Would you have any?
Stop now. It is a very difficult lifestyle. I tell people when they talk about stunts, particularly, I talk to people and they're like, "Yeah, I'm really rough and tumble, and I don't mind getting hurt and all this." It's like, that is such a small part of the business, sadly. Most of the business is trying to get work. You're lucky if you work 5% of the time. You're more like 1% of the time. And so you spend the rest of the time looking for that job. You're not going to get married. You're not going to have kids, not at least not on your salary. And you're not going to have any time. When I was coming up, we would work the crappiest jobs ever so that we could always be free to go and do an audition or go see a stunt coordinator, or if you got a job. I remember I was working at a copier supply company, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be going to work on this movie. I'm going to need the next couple of days off." And they said, "Oh, you can't do that. Not this week." See, here's the thing. I'm not going to be here. And they're like, "Well, what movie is it?" It's like, "I'm going to be working with Steven Spielberg on Hook." He's like, "Well, you're only going to be on that for a few days. Are you going to give up a career in photocopiers for a couple of days on a movie?" I'm like, did you hear what you just said? Of course I'm going to give up a career in copiers to work with Steven Spielberg. Of course I would. Wouldn't anybody? And there's a lot of you just never know when your next day is going to happen, if ever. I mean, I know guys who went 2 or 3 years before they even got their first job. And then if you get hurt, you break an arm, or something bad happens, just accidentally, then you're out of work until you're better. And then, maybe people are like, "Oh, I heard he got hurt." And it's like, no, he's better. And that person's like, "Oh, I got to make sure I get my reputation back, because now people think I'm that guy that gets hurt." And you don't want that, so it's a very dicey kind of career choice. And for actors, it's even harder. You spend so much time working on your craft. It's not like they don't just pick Nev Campbell out of a hat and say, "Yeah, we like her." It's like, no, this is somebody who's got a lot of experience, somebody who's got a lot of training, it's not being able to do it once, it's being able to do it 100 times. You may do a movie and they may ask you to do that same scene 40 times. And you have to be able to concentrate and stay focused and give them that scene over and over and over. And as a stunt person, you may have to do that stunt 10 times. So people say, "Oh, I don't mind getting banged up." The hell you don't. By the 8th or 9th time, when we were doing Nightmare 6, I had to do a fall from a window onto concrete, and the kid was wearing a t-shirt, so there was no padding. And so I was doing dive rolls in front of the Elm Street house in downtown LA in the cold. It was like 20 degrees that night. And I'm doing dive rolls onto asphalt. And that hurt every time. And you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it until they get the shot that they want. And so the job is tougher than you think. The lifestyle is misery. It's just horrible. So he goes, well, why would you do it? It's like, because nothing else would make me happy. Nothing would make me as happy. If you can find anything that even remotely makes you happy, please do that. Because, I'm just warning you, and if this warning means nothing to you, go for it. If this warning doesn't just tell you that I don't care what Bill says. I don't care what anyone says. This is the only thing in my life that will make me happy. I must do it, and I will give up anything and everything in order to do it. Go for it. I hope you have fun. I sure did. I got hit by a meat truck in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And I was a little nervous, as one might be. I see the truck, and they basically tied the truck off to a big like telephone pole. So it wasn't going to pull that pole down. And they said, you're going to stand here. And the truck is going to stop here. And I'm like, that's going to hit me. Said, yeah. And I said, well, can I put my hands up? He said, you're a zombie. You're not afraid of death. You're already dead.